President, I would ask unanimous consent that my next comments be placed in the record immediately prior to the vote on Samantha Power to be the next ambassador to the United Nations, as that's what I am rising to speak about.
Without objection.
I rise to promote and suggest to my colleagues on both sides of the aisle that you support the nomination of Samantha Power to be the next ambassador to the United Nations. This is a very complex world that we live in today, and certainly the forum of the United Nations, in spite of some issues that all of us have had with that body over the years, it remains the one forum where the United States, number one, gets to exhibit strong leadership with our friends, allies, and our enemies around the world, or our adversaries, I shouldn't say enemies, but our adversaries. And a strong voice in the United Nations is imperative. Samantha Power is an individual who possesses the type of character, the type of strong background, the person who possesses the intellect and the right kind of ability to communicate, to represent us today in this complex world at the United Nations. Samantha was born in Ireland, but moved to the United States shortly thereafter. She was educated in the public schools in Atlanta, went on to be educated at Harvard and, at Yale and at Harvard. So obviously she has the intellect from a background standpoint to represent our country at the UN. Between her stints at Harvard and at Yale, she did reporting as a journalist on the ground, reporting on the Yugoslav wars, where she was hands-on, dodging bullets and being involved from the standpoint of making reports to various journals and other publications about what was happening in those Yugoslav wars. Samantha is an individual who developed a passion for human rights, and she is not bashful about sharing that passion. And it is a commendable passion that she has for human rights. From 2005 forward, Samantha has been involved almost exclusively in the arena of foreign policy. First as a staffer for then Senator Obama, later involved in his campaign, and most recently as a member of the National Security Staff. Samantha is not just knowledgeable, she is knowledgeable in the right way when it comes to foreign policy. She's not only smart, but she's worldly. She has the charisma in her own way to, number one, express herself in a way that right now the United States needs to be expressing itself. And that's why I am so excited about the opportunity to see her on the ground at the United Nations representing our great country. She can be tough when she needs to be tough. She can be charismatic, and she can also be sharp-tongued. And with the adversaries that she's going to have to be dealing with at the United Nations, all of those assets are going to come into play. Samantha's going to do a great job as our next UN ambassador. I applaud her for her willingness to engage in public service, and I would encourage all of my colleagues to support her nomination to be the next ambassador to the United Nations. And I would yield the floor, Mr.